Hey, what's up, everybody? Kevin here for Turn 1 Soul Ring. Please remember to check out our monthly giveaway of MTG products. You can find that giveaway at Turn 1 Soul Ring, the podcast, on Instagram. We appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get to the show.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
What?
So have you guys been following the news and how on Monday they're going to be opening up a bunch of non-essential medical services in the city in Manitoba where we live?
More than just that.
Yeah, like hair salons.
Right. Yeah, I guess not medical, but yes, they are also. Yeah. People need haircuts too.
Yeah, they're just increasing the services that are available to be open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people can get elective surgeries and dentists and things, which affects me. So I might be going back to work sooner than I thought. But people need to get their teeth done.
Yeah, you gotta get those teeth did.
Yeah, because Saskatchewan was looking at putting in a plan starting May 19th. And then over here, they're like, well, we're so good, we're just going to start it off May 4th.
Yeah. YOLO, right? Open the campsites.
But I mean, when you look at the numbers, they were like, hey, your whole province was supposed to have like over 900, and we're at like 297.
275, actually.
275, okay.
Yeah, so they're just trying to bump those numbers up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there's more.
Oh boy.
I'm sure the number will go up, but the thing is, if the medical, if hospitals are not overwhelmed, and hospitals didn't get overwhelmed here with cases, I think right now we currently have 5 people in hospital, and no one is in the ICU currently. So, I think they're just like, okay, we have more capacity. We can open up the economy because it's a balancing act, right? It's the economy and it's, people's lives. So it's always, it's always a balancing act. And
that's what all those protests are about everywhere else.
Oh man, those protests, I saw a sign that was, lockdown is slavery. How is that? They're not. I mean, I guess yes, they are forcing you to do something, but they're forcing you to be at home and just hang out. I can tell you from me not working these past several weeks, it's not slavery. So, and I have a baby, so
yeah. Let's just take it to the most extreme point. It's like, yeah, that's true. This is like slavery. It's just like the Egyptians with the pyramids and stuff. Same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But let's start the show. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Turn 1 Soul Ring. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Commander 2020 decks again. I know you're sick of hearing about them, but we're content creators just like everybody else. So we're going to upgrade them so you don't have to. We'll go through each deck individually, and we'll try to keep the cards that we're adding within a reasonable budget, which sounds subjective. I know, but longtime listeners of the show will have a pretty good idea of what Eric and I are willing to spend on a card. Riley, though, is probably the most budget-conscious one among us. So if budget is what you're interested in, you should really pay attention when we get to Riley's deck.
Yeah, I mean, by no means is this breaking the bank. It's all janky cycling cards, so...
yeah, so it's perfect. But before we get to that, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us if they're so inclined?
You can find us on Instagram at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. If you want to contact us directly, give us a message or two, let us know what's going on. You can find us at Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast at gmail.com. And then on YouTube, you can also find us on there. Our podcasts are put on there. You can search us up, Turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. And yeah, just make sure to type in the podcast.
And we don't have ads, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, there you go.
we don't want to make money. So before we get to the decks, I just thought I'd touch on news quickly. I don't know if you guys, if there's anything you wanted to touch on here, but Flash was banned in Commander a couple of weeks ago. That really only affects CEDH players. As far as I know, as far as I can remember, I don't think I've ever seen a Flash cast in a game of Commander that I've participated in, but it sounds like the CEDH community is happy about the banning, and That's really all I have to say about that. What do you guys think about the flash banning?
Yeah, no skin off my back. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I'm on the same page as you.
So, like a lot of content creators, we're talking about Commander 2020. And instead of staying inside a particular budget restriction, like I already mentioned, we thought that it would be kind of fun to take the approach to these precons in this episode that we take to our Commander League decks. Meaning that we'll take a look at each of the 5 decks and swap out cards as if we just finished our first round of play with them right out of the box. And instead of swapping cards by tiers as we would normally do, so the player that comes in first gets 2 swaps, player that comes in second gets 4 swaps, etc., we're going to add and remove 15 cards in each deck. So we're going to start right up top with the Ruthless Regiment deck, which was Eric's upgrade. Eric, why don't you get us started with the cards you're going to remove from this deck?
For sure. And just a little tidbit here. I did try to throw in some spicy cards, so when we get to that, I hope there's some interesting stuff.
I hope so too.
Yeah. So starting us off, Bonder's Ornament. See ya.
Yeah, that's on that. Yeah, of course. That didn't make the cut for me either.
Cool. We're getting rid of Bounty Agent. This is a new card, so as a refresher, you can tap it and sacrifice the agent to destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. So a little bit of extra removal there, but throwing in some other stuff. We got Citywide Bus, which is a 4-grader board wipe. Dearly Departed does stuff when it's in the graveyard. I got rid of Kelson the Plague. He was the one who gets experience counters for when you kill creatures when he deals damage.
Right.
Card's just kind of slow, you know?
Yeah, and it's just not it's not doing what the face commander wants to do.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I guess I should say, like, are we sticking? Like, I stuck with the face commanders for mine.
Yeah, I stuck with the face commanders for mine because we're only swapping out 15 cards, and I thought it would just be too much. There'd be too many cards left over that were put in the precons for the face commander. So I think that's what we all did.
Cool. We're getting rid of Magus at the disc.
Yeah.
It's slow. It could do stuff, but it's a little slow.
I guess you could play Magus of the Disc and activate it and then cast Flawless Maneuver.
Sure.
But yeah, it is a little slow. I'd rather just have a Nevin Yearl's Disc.
Yeah. Or, you know, like just a board wipe.
Yeah.
Just Day of Judgment. Yeah.
I got rid of the Martial Impetus. I'm going to be the one attacking, not other people. Nahiri I got rid of because there's really no payoff. You usually want to play Nahiri and -8 something huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing.
But you could get another human.
Oh boy. We got rid of the Parasitic Impetus. Riders of Gavany, another new card. Human creatures you control have protection from creatures of the chosen type. So when it enters, you choose a creature type. So it's like, I don't know if you're playing a lot of beasts. I could choose beast. It's like, woo. I did get rid of the Sanctuary Blade, which is the one that adds the protection when you equip.
Right. I remember that one from our set review.
We got rid of Thraben Doomsayer. He slowly adds stuff to the board. If you have 5 or less life, creatures you control get +2/+2. Ooh.
Fateful Hour making a comeback.
Titan of Eternal Fire. Just buy. Unexpectedly Absent is gone. It puts a permanent like somewhere in the deck, depending on how much you want to throw into it. So it is like an okay removal spell, because it's hard to get the card back if you put it like 10 deep or something like that. But that's still a lot of mana.
You do it in response to somebody shuffling.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way.
Got him.
And who knows where it is in the deck. Hoo-hoo. And then, we got rid of Vigilant Justice.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Speaking of shuffling cards into the deck, did you guys see that post that I made on Instagram on the podcast account? It was that Grixis enchantment so it costs Grixis for an enchantment. It's from Ice Age, and it's activated abilities. You pay 3 generic mana, and you get to look at the top 3 cards of target player's library and then put them back in any order. So it's like a super budget. It's like a 25-cent rare from Ice Age.
I know why.
Yeah, it's super budget, but and restrictive mana cost. But you could totally fuck people over with like Enlightened Tutor or any tutor from that cycle, or like I guess Limduel's Vault doesn't really do that much damage, but anyway, seems just like a janky card, but kind of fun to just mess with the top of people's libraries, or at least know what they're going to draw next.
It's just there's just so much mana involved with using its ability. 3 mana to activate its ability just to look at the cards.
Just to look, yeah. Just to look. No touching.
Well, I mean, I guess you can rearrange it, but you're not even drawing anything off of that. Like,
no, it's bad. It's a bad card. But anyways, let's move on. Let's move on to the exciting part here. The cards Eric is putting into the deck.
Idea behind this: it's a humans deck. So let's just get like a lot of humans going and some like really neat little synergies. Mm-hmm. So first off, we kind of touched on board wrath. So we have Austere Command. I love this board wipe.
Modal, super good. And then on top of that, we have the first interesting card, which is Kindred Dominance. So this is a 7 mana sorcery. You choose a creature type and you destroy all creatures that aren't of the chosen type.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good
solid.
One.
So one-sided board wipe.
Ooh yeah. So that'll be some fun. The deck already has some like ways where if creatures die, they can deal damage or you get value off of it. So throwing in just like a Cruel Celebrant, just to add some extra stuff into it, because each opponent loses 1 life and then you gain 1 life as well. So just a couple more effects like that into the deck just to round it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we want to be making everything kind of like stronger. So I wanted to add in like at least 1 new card. So I thought obviously General Kudro of Draneth fits super well into the deck, because other humans you control get 1/1. And then whenever him or another human enters the battlefield under your control, you get to exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. So it's also just like some incidental graveyard hate.
Yeah, and he also has an ability where you can sacrifice humans to remove creatures. Is that right?
Yeah, you can remove a creature's power 4 or greater. So it's like if we do have a lot of tokens on the board that we don't really need and there's a big problem, you can also do that as well.
Yeah, you sacrifice 2 humans.
Yeah, 2 mana, sacrifice 2 humans.
Yeah. And in a pinch, you can also sacrifice him. It's not 2 other humans.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Mm-hmm. So that's nice. But honestly, you don't want to be doing that.
I'm surprised they didn't include him in the Commander deck to begin with. Like, he was one of the legends from Ikoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like really fits just right into the deck.
That's good to include.
It's almost like they knew they should have included him, but thought they'd make more money if people had to buy the single after they bought this deck.
I think you're onto something.
Hey. All right, now let's get to a lot of the kind of like synergy stuff and then a couple others after that. So we have Cathar's Crusade. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, you get a 1/1 counter on each creature you control.
Yeah.
Classic.
Each creature.
If you like dice games.
Yeah. And then this card should do more for this deck than the other decks on the battlefield. It's Coat of Arms.
Oh, yeah.
So, each creature gets 1/1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least 1 creature type with it.
That's right.
So if you have 3 humans on the battlefield, all of them are getting +2/+2.
Yeah, it's Sliver Legion for any creature type. I love it.
Yeah. We do have Door of Destinies. Again, we're going to choose humans. When we cast a human, we'll put a charge counter on it. And then creatures you control the chosen type get 1/1 for each charge counter on Door of Destinies. So that card kind of really snowballs.
Hey, nice. You can get the pre-release foil of Door of Destinies for the same price as some of the other copies. And the art is different. Nice. And it has the Morningtide watermark on it, also in foil.
Ooh,
that's nice.
I didn't know it had different promo art.
Whew, well, now you do.
Because I have a foil of that one already. All right, next up is Etchings of the Chosen. So again, when this enters, you choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get 1/1, but you can also pay 1 to sack a creature of the chosen type, and target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. So if someone's going to board wipe in this way, if we have mana up, we can still save some of the creatures, at least the more important ones.
Yeah, that is a really good mana sink. I didn't even know this card existed.
Yeah, that was from Modern Horizons, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that.
We do have another Kindred card, which is Kindred Boon. So we're going to choose humans when it comes into play. You can pay 2 to put a divinity counter on target creature you control of the chosen type, and each creature you control with a divinity counter on it has indestructible.
Also another good mana sink.
Yeah, and let's just make our dudes indestructible.
For sure. Yeah.
And then there's the Immortal Sun. So this pumps our creatures 1/1, but also players can activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities. And you get to draw an extra card as you draw step. And spells cost 1 less to cast. This is just an all-in-all solid artifact, I feel.
Oh, yeah. This is a great card.
Sadly, it's been climbing in price, but that's just because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does everything.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
And then, Vanquisher's Banner. We're going to choose humans when it enters. They get 1/1, and again, whenever we cast a spell of chosen type, we get to draw a card. So there's some things in here when we're able to kind of refill our hand a little bit as well when we're drawing our humans. Unbreakable formations in here, so some board wipes. We do have some extra protection against that as well.
Yeah, that's right. And or if you want to board wipe and save your board, you can do that too.
Exactly.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just clear everything else out, save your guys, and then probably swing in for a good attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, classic white move.
Classic.
The color in white in the color pie, not the other kind of white.
Next one is a little bit weird, but I was like, Outlaw's Merriment. Let's throw that in the deck.
Outlaw's Merriment. What is that?
So at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one at random, create a red and white creature token with these characteristics. So you get a 3/1 human warrior with trample and haste. You get a 2/1 human cleric with lifelink and haste. Or you get a 1/2 human rogue with haste, and when this creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target.
I remember this card from our set review.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great and limited.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a great limited card.
Yeah, that's solid. Every upkeep, that's amazing. And
so obviously every upkeep in Commander is a little slow, but
you're getting all those bodies on the board, and your deck cares about humans, so it does make sense.
Yeah, it just looks like a fun include.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the cards you mentioned, and it also recommended Herald's Horn, which is a solid card too. I can't believe it's over $10, and it was just reprinted.
Yeah, that's another good one. Mm-hmm. Don't have it in here though.
All good. You do you, man.
So we have one card left, and this card is Harmonious Archon. Do either of you know this card?
Is that's the one from Eldraine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 6 mana, 4/5. Non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. And when it enters, you create 2 1/1 white humans, which will be 3/3s.
Right. Yeah.
So this affects the whole board.
Yeah, exactly. It's like humility.
Exactly. But all of our humans are being pumped by all the other tech that we have. So even if the enemies have bigger creatures, there's a good chance when this comes out, we're going to have the dominant...
power toughness.
The thickest boys.
Yeah.
That's
the
right.
thickest boys.
Yeah, Archons will make you thick.
Ooh, yeah. So yeah, making a bunch of humans, they're all going to be pumping each other up to be bigger. And of course, with the commander, she does give +2/+0. So you're already getting in that extra damage boost when your commander's on the battlefield as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just to help you out a bit in combat with that +2/+0, giving them first strike would also probably make combat really beneficial for your creatures.
Yeah, it would definitely be favorable on your side because it's really tough to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got 5 power. It's like you have to have a creature with 6 toughness at least to be able to deal with those humans.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move on to the Symbiotic Swarm deck, which was my upgrade. And I will start with the cards that I removed. Start with Selective Adaptation. We talked about this card in our set review. I'm just not a fan of cards like this. Maybe if it was an X spell, I could see leaving it in the deck, but I think it'll whiff more often than not, especially with my luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up, I took out Ajani Unyielding. I don't think this Planeswalker is trying to do what this deck wants to do overall, at least not the direction I'm taking it in. Maybe if his plus ability put the leftover cards in the graveyard, I could see leaving it in, but it's a pass. Next up, Cartographer's Hawk. We did lampoon this card quite a bit in our C20 set review, and it was fun. And I still largely feel the same way about it. I'm not sure why this deck, why this is in a deck with green in it, just like both of you. And even if it was in a deck without green, I still think it's too slow.
Even if you're mono white?
Maybe then. But there's so much good artifact ramp that you get to use right away.
There is, yeah.
Next card is Skullwinder. I know that this can be a political card in many cases, but overall, that's not what I'm trying to do with the deck. I'm trying to get the main commander to smash face and make him evasive, or it evasive. I'm not really in the habit of helping out my opponents, as you both know, and longtime listeners of the show. So it's out.
Yeah, it's more for me.
It is more. Skullwinder is a real Riley card.
Yeah.
But it does have Death Touch, which is nice.
Yeah.
And this was a needed reprint, I have to say. Bonder's Ornament is the next card. So we've talked about this card, but I just want to say that it is a really cool idea for a card, but I think my issue with it is that there won't be enough times when, let's say for example, Eric and I are doing the worst in the game, and I don't think there's going to be enough times where I have a Bonder's Ornament and Eric has a Bonder's Ornament, and we can both activate it for each other, or I can activate it. We make a deal where we're the only ones that can take the sole advantage of the draw card ability without giving it to a player that's ahead. None of what I just described is ever going to happen because you're not going to keep this in your deck. So it's not an issue, but I just wanted to kind of break down why I don't think it should be in the deck. But moving on.
Cool.
The next card is Blood Curdle. So the menace counter could be useful, but there are just better removal spells out there.
Yeah.
And this deck does have white in it, so.
But it is first pickable and limited.
The next card here I have is Vitality Hunter. Vitality Hunter is first pickable?
No, Blood Curdle.
Oh, of course, in limited. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. Next up here we have Vitality Hunter. So with the strategy that I would take with this, take this deck in, I wouldn't be able to take full advantage of this creature. I think I mentioned in our set review that if this could bring you back from the brink of death, but it's got no place here. The next few cards are all in the same category. We have Majestic Myriarch, Soulflayer, and Karen Wanderer. Majestic Myriarch and Soulflayer, well, I guess, and Karen Wanderer, they don't have any keywords. And I think with all of them, what they're trying to do with this deck is give Cathril a redundancy with these secondary commanders that aren't commanders that you have in the deck, which is really important in a commander deck. You don't want to rely solely on a commander, but I only have 15 cards to remove, and this was kind of hard. So I took these ones out, and Soulflayer in particular because it has Delve, and I really don't want to be delving away valuable creatures in my graveyard with keyword abilities, and there's going to be situations where that's all you have in your graveyard.
Oh, totally.
So that's why these are out. And the next cards, again, are also in a similar category. So we have Ever After, Unburial Rights, and Unbreakable Bond. Again, returning creatures from the graveyard isn't what this deck is trying to do. It wants to have creatures in the graveyard with lots of keyword abilities, so you can have that big Cathril enter the battlefield play and just put all the counters on Cathril.
Getting Hornet Queen back from the graveyard is pretty spicy, though.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. No, totally. Totally. No, I don't disagree. The last two cards here are Myriad Landscape and Crozen Verge, which are both lands that tutor for more lands. I used to put these in all my decks, especially Myriad Landscape in decks that didn't have green in them, because it was a really great way to land-based ramp in colors that have a lot of difficulty doing that. But I found over the last couple of years that these are just too slow. I also don't think this deck needs 38 lands. With the London Mulligan, we can all get away with fewer lands in our commander decks, but I guess WotC kind of forgot about that this year.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the cards that I'm going to add to this deck. So usually all these decks need more life support in the form of ramp, and this one isn't any different. This deck has quite a high average CMC, so the first few cards that I would add are a full suite of signets and talismans. So I have Golgari Signet, Selesnya Signet, and Orzhov Signet, Talisman of Resilience, Talisman of Unity, and Talisman of Hierarchy. All these cards are relatively cheap. Probably Talisman of Unity is the most expensive because it's only been printed in Mirrodin, but it can't be more than $2 to $3, I would think.
It's also really good because like some of these decks actually do have a suite of the signets, and I was surprised that this one didn't with like the higher CMC. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. It does have a higher CMC. You're totally right about that. So continuing with the ramp package, I would also add some of the really good 2 CMC green ramp spells. So those are Nature's Lore, which gets you any forest card into play untapped. Farseek gets you any land with a basic land type other than a forest. So any duel without a forest land type, you can pull out of your library, and it enters tapped. And the Tried, Tested, and True Rampant Growth, which gets you any basic land. And in a 3-color deck, you're probably going to need the fixing.
Yeah, boy.
yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the more exciting cards that I'm going to add to this deck. So, a bit about the direction I would take this deck in. Clearly, this deck wants you to have enough creatures in your graveyard so that when you play Cathril, you'll get the full value off its ETB trigger, allowing you to make Cathril super beefy. Let's add a couple of cards that allow you to take advantage of the situations when you're able to put a big Cathril into play. The first card here is Lightning Greaves, because of course, Cathril doesn't have red, so Cathril doesn't care about a creature in your yard with haste, unfortunately. This can protect any of the big creatures in this deck, but I'm planning on putting it in here so I can attack with Cathril the turn it comes into play. And I did a little quick math, and if Cathril gets all 10 +1/+1 counters and all keyword abilities that it cares about, it'll be able to swing for lethal commander damage. And you guys know how much I like Voltron.
Yep, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
You're just playing your commander and then one-shot somebody when the turn comes up.
Boom. So this next section is some cards that help put creatures into the graveyard, creatures with the keyword abilities that Cathril cares about. So first up, we have Entomb, which is 1 black for an instant. Search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Then we have Buried Alive. It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Then we have Jared's Orders. It's 2 black-green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards and reveal them. Put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. And Fauna Shaman, 1 and a green for a Elf Shaman 2/2. You can pay 1 green to tap it, discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty spicy. So these cards all serve the same purpose, which is getting the creatures with the most keyword abilities into the graveyard as quickly as possible. And Birthing Pod is the last card I'll be adding to this deck.
Hey.
So out of the box,
nice.
I can read Birthing Pod in case it is an older card, which makes me feel old saying it's an older card. Birthing Pod is 3 and a green Phyrexian mana, and you can, for an artifact, you can pay 1 and a green Phyrexian mana to tap it, sacrifice a creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1+ the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. And this card is so good that it's banned in Modern. Right? It's still banned in Modern.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's banned. Just leave you on the hook there and get you all confused.
I almost was. So out of the box, this deck does seem to have enough small creatures if you have a chance to get the pod going on the early turns. And in the late game, it's also a powerful tool to set up an impactful Cathril play. And yeah, that's something else. I think as I progress, if this was the deck I was playing, or if I was going to continue to upgrade this deck, I might add more creatures with death triggers that also have keyword abilities to just get more value. And I would also add a lot more enchantment removal, because that's where all the best graveyard hate comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much, because you always have the two big. Rest in peace and blah 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 of the void.
Yeah, the blah 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 of anticipation.
I'm a pretty blah 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 always gets me.
And maybe if I won round one, I might have gone more for the enchantment removal than what I chose to add here, because that would put a target on my back and you guys would get me.
Getcha.
All right, so let's move on to the Timeless Wisdom deck, which is Riley's upgrade.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, to start off with some of the cards that I cut, I really wanted to focus a lot more on the cycling theme, because, of course, that's what Gavi is based around. And I felt like since there was New Perspectives and Fluctuator already in the deck, I wanted to lean into that as much as possible. So if I started comboing off with New Perspectives or Fluctuator, then I would have more gas to play with. So my first cut was Savai Thundermane. And this one, you would think it goes well with the cycling theme, but that pay 2 whenever you cycle a card to deal 2 damage to a creature and gain 2 life doesn't sound that great. Like taxing 2 onto an ability is just a little bit heavy. Sure, in limited, like this card is great, but we're playing Commander here. So Portal Mage is the next card that I cut. It's got flash, and it basically helps you to redirect an attacking creature to somebody else. Not really what I'm going for here. Akeem the Soaring Wind was another cut. This is one of the other secondary commanders. This one cares a lot more about tokens and giving tokens double strike. Not really what I'm going for here.
Yeah, totally.
Next up is Mercurial Chemister. This guy, again, he's like, I love drawing cards. I've got nothing against drawing cards, but he seems a little bit slow and not really fitting the cycling
I like this
theme.
card.
Yeah. Like,
Riley, it's 1 blue to draw 2 cards. What's wrong? It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal, but I'd rather it, like, if I had the choice between playing him and cycling a card, I would cycle a card.
All right. They should have given him cycling. That was a mistake.
There you
There you go.
Next up, we've got Ethereal Forager, the big elemental whale. I like this guy, but he's not really for my theme of the deck. And even out of the box, like, there's not a whole lot of instants and sorceries in this deck to begin with. So I'm not quite sure why he was included here, other than just being kind of a spicy card.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to put a new spin on Delve.
Yeah.
And this is where they put it. We've got several cards in this set that are just like, ooh, here's a little bit of this keyword.
Yeah.
And bye.
Yeah.
We're not going to support it. Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
Next up, we've got Asperia Supreme Judge. I don't really care if people are attacking me all that much. Gavi makes tokens here and there. I've got chump blockers, and I'm just trying to cycle through my deck, not trying to cast big clunky 6 drops.
Yeah. This is a great commander, though.
Yeah. That's why he's getting out of the deck.
Yeah, that's right.
Then we've got Eternal Dragon. This one does have plane cycling, which, is a form of cycling. But I just found that there were better options than Eternal Dragon. The returning Eternal Dragon from your graveyard to be able to reuse it doesn't sound the best. Like, it's limited to your upkeep, and it's 5 mana. So unless there's like a really niche scenario where I've got nothing to do, I don't really see myself even hard casting a 7 mana 5/5 flying. Like, it's not quite there.
Sounds like a good rate, though.
And the plane cycling gets you any planes card, so that's pretty spicy. You can fix.
Yeah, you could always go for like one of the bicycle lands, the ones that allow you to cycle, so you keep it going. Yep. But I just felt there were better cycling options, especially with Ikoria coming out with a number of cyclers that come in at 1 mana for cycling it.
They're tricycle lands.
Yeah, you can get the tricycle lands, but you can also get the Amonkhet bicycle lands.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were talking about different lands. Yeah. And now I feel stupid. See what you did?
That's why he said bicycle, Evan.
In fact, one weird thing is they didn't actually include the Jeskai tricycle land in this deck. So that is one of my ads. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, they didn't put any of the tricycle lands in any of these decks, the color appropriate lands.
Go buy it.
Exactly.
Then I've got Hoofprints of the Stag. So this was one of my last cuts. I could definitely see this being useful, putting 4/4s on the battlefield, but I just found like I could be doing better things, especially when it came down to the final few cuts. So this just didn't make the list.
Yeah, it's pretty slow.
Yeah. Then we've got Martial Impetus, just like Eric. I cut this one. I did keep the red Impetus, but I cut Martial Impetus and I cut Psychic Impetus as well.
Okay.
Then we've got Spirit Cairn. Now this one, just like Savai Thundermane, it requires you to pay 1 to get a spirit or something out of it whenever somebody discards a card. So it works with cycling. It's probably okay. I've already got Drakehaven?
Yeah.
I've already got Drakehaven in there. It makes 2/2s for 1 mana, so I figured I don't really need another copy of this ability. It's not super powerful. It's just kind of gumming up the board and helping slow things down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's any player.
Then we've got Slice and Dice. This is a weird one for 4 and 2 red. It does 4 damage to each creature, or you could cycle it for 2 and a red to have it deal 1 damage to each creature. It just seems very clunky. I think I replaced this with Sweltering Suns, which seemed a lot more fitting for this scenario.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, it stinks. Next.
Then I decided to cut 3 lands. So the precon comes with 39 lands, and I figured even going down, I could probably go down to somewhere around 34 lands and be comfortable with it, considering that most of my cards cycle. So I can always dig for lands if I need to. But I just figured cutting 3 is an easy first step. Hostile Desert. It's just a creature land that requires you to exile something from your exile a land card from your graveyard, which doesn't come up too often. I mean, there are some cycling lands in this deck, of course, but creature lands are not very powerful in Commander to begin with. This one's no exception.
Ouch.
Skycloud Expanse. I don't really like the filter lands that don't help you tap for any additional mana outside of requiring to filter mana through it. So I just found these are too clunky. And then Temple of the False God, which is a fine ramp spell, but not really something I'm looking for in this deck.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It is a ramp spell. If you have 4 mana, it's a 4 mana ramp spell.
Basically, right?
Yes. You put it perfectly.
That counts as your land drop.
Yeah. And then for the cards that I added, so I think I touched on it already. The idea that I was going for is to make that cycling deck more efficient. So add in a number of cards that care about cycling or can cycle themselves or do both. To start off, I added in Flourishing Fox. This card's great. It cycles for 1, which is everything that I've always wanted in a cycling card. And it's also a 1-drop that just gets progressively bigger as you cycle more shit. So I could see this being like an early threat and just getting huge and potentially taking control of the game early on if nobody deals with it. But even if somebody does deal with it, you spent 1 mana on a creature and somebody had to remove it. So it's just a win-win.
I hands down agree. I would not want to have to use like one of my premium removals to get rid of that stupid little fox.
Yeah.
Then we've got Cloud of Fairies. This is a classic combo enabler, but really Cloud of Fairies is here primarily for the cycling, but also just as a little plus side. I found that there's already Astral Drift in this deck. So if I am cycling cards and flickering Cloud of Fairies, I'm getting a little bit more value out of untapping 2 lands if I have it in play.
Nice mana generator.
Then we've got Drannith Healer and Drannith Stinger. I'll put those two together because they're basically counterparts. Drannith Healer gains you 1 life whenever you cycle another card. It's got cycling 1. And Drannith Stinger deals 1 damage to each opponent whenever you cycle a card, and it's got cycling 1. So these are good at just keeping you alive and slowly whittling down your opponent's life total.
I like it.
And cycling 1,
1 mana.
Then we got Windcaller Aven. Now I included Windcaller Aven just as a 1-cost cycler, but Windcaller Aven also gives you the ability that whenever you cycle Windcaller Aven, it gives target creature flying until end of turn. So just a nice little combat trick with cycling. It seems to fit the theme of the deck quite well.
I agree.
Then I've got Yadaro Wandering Monster. So this is 5 red
Yay.
for Trample Haste 8/8. It's got cycling for 1 and a red. And basically, if you cycle Yadaro 4 times in a game, you get to put him from the graveyard onto the battlefield. And whenever you cycle him, he generally goes back into your library, which is fine. I'll just find him later by cycling through my deck. And it just gives me that fuel to keep cycling through and eventually put a threat onto the battlefield. It might not come up too often in Commander because, of course, it's singleton 100-card deck. But just putting him back in the deck to be able to cycle later, it seems like good value.
Yeah, it's a very cool card.
I like Yadaro.
Yeah, he's spicy. Plus, he's a turtle with haste, so what can you ask for?
Yeah,
I love that
irony.
too. Giant turtle, he's got haste.
Then we've got Footfall Crater. Now, Footfall Crater, cycling 1, so that's the biggest reason I included it, but it also has that plus side that basically you can enchant a land, and the land has the ability to tap and give a creature trample and haste until end of turn. I figured this would be great if I ever slammed down something big that I wanted to get in at somebody. If that was a scenario I'd ever find myself in, but more often than not, I'm probably going to be cycling this. Then we've got Unpredictable Cyclone. Eric mentioned this in his limited draft. Unpredictable Cyclone. This is a spicy one. So for 3 red, if a cycling ability of another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that shares a card type with the cycled card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exiled card, then put exiled cards that were cast, or then put the cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. And it's also got cycling 2. So this thing is great. Just seems like a fun, unpredictable engine, so to speak.
Ooh, it's in the name.
But I love the idea of just being able to cycle something for 1. Say, cycle Footfall Crater for 1, then spin through my deck to hit the next card, which is Shark Typhoon. For
that's good value.
5 and a blue. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an XX blue shark creature token with flying onto the battlefield where X is the spell's converted mana cost. And it's also got cycling for X 1 blue. And when you cycle it, you create an XX blue creature token, or shark creature token with flying.
Sharknado.
Sharknado, yeah. Then we've got Lay Claim, just another form of late game removal. It's for 5 blue, you enchant a permanent, you control that enchanted permanent, but it's also got cycling for 2. So in the early game, when you really have no use for this or can't cast it, you're just going to cycle it away. Then this is single-handedly the most expensive card in the list. When I was putting together, I was putting together originally like a 5-color cycling deck before these decks even came out and before we even found out about cycling being a mechanic that mattered. And I had Decree of Silence in that deck list. And at that time, it was under $5. It is now $20 US.
Whoa.
Oh, it's on Card Kingdom for $8.99.
Okay, well, I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
The foil is $49.99, but this is just with Gavi. This is just a free counterspell.
Exactly, and that's why I put it in the deck. Most of the time, like if you can in the late game, Decree of Silence is crippling for your opponents because they have
yeah.
to throw 3 cards into it, basically.
Yeah.
But with Gavi on the battlefield, it's basically just a free counter that can protect her or, protect whatever you want to be protected.
Yep. Gotta protect.
Yeah.
It also can't be interacted with, really.
Exactly. It's cycling, right? Cycling for that ability, so that's going to be hard to interact with.
You have to stifle it or disallow.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Then, as a form of a board wipe, it seems fitting to put in Starstorm for X red. Starstorm deals X damage to each creature, and it's got cycling 3. Then we've got Forsake the Worldly, just
Good card.
a form of artifact and enchantment removal. You exile target artifact or enchantment for 2 and a white, and it's got cycling for 2.
Yeah, the exile is really nice on that because it just deals with everything, right? Even if it has indestructible, which is just always a nice touch.
Yeah, and I find this card is pretty fringe playable to begin with, so throwing it in a cycling deck is easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're already getting that value.
Yeah. Then we've got Sweltering Suns. I mentioned this as a replacement for that previous card.
Right.
Sweltering Suns, 1 red, deal 3 damage to each creature, cycling 3. Seems a lot more fitting. I really don't care about cycling and dealing 1 damage to each creature because that's rarely going to be relevant. And even if there is a case where there, is a swarm of tokens that I need to get rid of, I'd be happy just playing this for 3 mana anyways.
Yeah.
And then finally we got that Tricycle Land, the Jeskai Tricycle Land, Ralgrin Triome.
Ralgrin.
Ralgrin.
Raul.
Just Jeskai Tricycle Land, cycling 3, great stuff.
Yeah, Rogrin meets the sea with, what does this say? I can't read it. Sorry. It's like they don't have high-res images yet on Card Kingdom.
Oh, they do on Scryfall. Rogrin meets the sea with jaws wide.
Go ahead.
Its coast spiked with teeth of crystal and granite.
Ooh, nice.
Very spicy.
I bet Tom Hanks would like it from the hit film Castaway.
Wilson!
I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
Great movie. All right, I think that's where we're going to end the show for today.
Yeah, actually, good movie. All right. See you guys. Let's throw the commander decks. So let's move on to the Arcane Maelstrom deck.
Yeah, let's do it.
This deck kind of piqued my interest, and then after actually kind of like building with it a little bit more, I was like, this just seems like a fun deck to play. You may not get wins a lot of the time, but like just some of the value you can sometimes get can be pretty sweet. And so what I've really done here was I tried to get rid of a lot of the extra stuff that's like really not needed, and we're just putting in value to really make the commander work. So with this deck, whenever you cast an instant spell for the first time, each turn, if it's tapped, you get to copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. And then on top of that, Calamax will also get a 1/1 counter. So let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Cards removed. Bonder's Ornament. Bye.
Yep. We don't need to talk about it again.
No. Clash of Titans. Cards garbage. Get out of here.
It's funny because I kind of like Clash of Titans, but all good. I would have taken it out too. They're better cards.
Yeah,
there's better
cards. A little clunky.
It's clunky. I decided to get rid of Channeled Force as well. This is one of the newer cards. But I just don't think you're going to be wanting to discard a lot of the cards. Like maybe save up some lands and discard them to get some damage in.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I found with Channeled Force is it really hurts when it gets countered.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're like, oh, I'm going to discard 5 cards. You're like, okay, counter. You're like, well, I don't get to draw my cards. My hand's gone.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Super risky. I got rid of Commune with Lava. Just because we're going to be wanting to draw our cards and play them. So I put in some card draw spells instead of having this one where they just kind of like go away anyways. It's like if you have blue and you can draw cards, why would you play this? Really? I think is the idea. Dual Caster Mage I got rid of. It does copy spells, but we have instants that can copy spells. and then those instants will work off of our commander's ability. So
Right.
we don't need the mage.
The mage does not have flash. Is that correct?
Mage does have flash.
Okay. But Calamax only cares about instants and sorceries.
Just instants.
Just instants. That's right.
Just
Yep.
instants.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't want the twin flame combo?
No. I didn't put that in here. That is a pretty sweet combo, though. I kind of forgot about that until you mentioned it. I decided to get rid of the Eon Frolicker.
Oh, yeah. It's not great.
No, I don't want to give someone else another turn.
Yeah, give it to me.
I'll
use it.
No.
Yeah, we'll do interleague trades and that won't count towards slots.
Yeah. I decided to get rid of the Planeswalker as well, Jace. I just think he's kind of slow. Like, you're probably going to play him -2, get a card or two, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get on to what's better than him in a second. Okay. Also got rid of the Nascent Metamorph. I wanted to keep it in just because it's kind of funky, but again, like, let's just put in better stuff.
Yeah, it just kind of stinks. I don't like that card at all.
Yeah. Got rid of the Niblis of Frost. This one was kind of interesting because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you can tap a creature an opponent controls and it doesn't untap on their untap step. But it can slow some people down, you know, so. Mm-hmm. And then I got rid of the Primal Empathy. This was the one I know we didn't say too many good things about it. If you have the largest creature at beginning of your upkeep, you get to draw a card, and if you don't, you put a 1 on a counter on one of your creatures.
Right, so eventually you do get to draw the card.
Yeah.
It's good for limited, not in Commander.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That seems to be a running theme.
Yeah, across probably every set.
Let's put a lot of good limited cards into the Commander decks.
Well, Commander play. The idea is that these are for new players, and they're not going to give those players brand new decks that they can just play right out of the box and they're good. They need to learn how to build a deck, and you do that by playing with shitty cards.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I got rid of Tribute to the Wild. Each opponent sacrifices an artifact or enchantment, so it's like. And it's in green. Sounds like a black card or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, just play a better removal spell where you can choose play Crows and Grip for 1 more mana.
Yeah.
Split second.
Split second. I did get rid of the Ravenous Gigantotherium.
Good.
Good rate.
Yeah.
It's a great rate. Yeah.
And then I did get rid of all 3 of the impetuses because there's the Predatory, Psychic, and Shiny. I was debating on the Shiny one again, but I was like, you know what? I don't need these extra enchantments in the deck. We're just throwing in instants, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it.
Go hard.
So getting to the upgrades, I'm going to talk about the extra stuff, and then I'm going to talk about the instants that I threw in here because there's almost 10 of them.
Okay.
So the deck really wants to go... We want to get value off the stuff we're playing, and the deck really wants to go big, so we're going to need a lot of mana for that. The first one I want to touch on was Metallurgic Summonings. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get an XX colorless artifact token, where X is the spell's CMC. Kind of the same as Shark Typhoon. Shark Typhoon gives them flying.
Yeah.
But Summonings has the extra ability where you can pay 5 to exile the enchantment, and then you return all instant sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a really great value late game. Just getting all those cards back.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I decided to choose that guy instead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Nyx Bloom Ancient. Yeah, all our permanents tap for 3 times as much. I think so.
Yep. No, that's what the card reads.
Zendikar Resurgent. It's probably my favorite mana doubler. I've been playing that card since it came out back in Zendikar.
Oath of the Gatewatch, yeah.
Battle for Zendikar.
Oh, it was Oath.
Yep.
Was it Oath or was it Battle for Zendikar?
It was Oath.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh's right. Yeah, yeah. It's great. It's a great mana doubler because it draws you cards on cast. That's what that cast trigger is what really pushes it over the line.
Oh, hands down. Yeah, that's why I like it so much. Mm-hmm. And then we have Spark Double. So this card's really cool because you copy any creature, and you can do a Planeswalker as well because it won't be legendary.
Right. Yeah,
So,
and then if it's a creature, it comes into play with an extra 1/1 counter or loyalty counter if it's a Planeswalker.
yeah, that as well.
Right.
But if we can Spark Double our commander, we're going to get a lot of value off the spells we cast.
Yes. Yeah, very true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, and then Seaborn Muse, we want as much mana as possible, so having mana on other players' turns is always great.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, I'm adding one sorcery, Mystic Retrieval. So for 4 mana, and then it has flashback for 3 mana, blue and then red respectively. You can return instant sorcery card from graveyard to your hand. So we're just getting back all of our spells that we want to play with.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then onto the instants we're adding into the deck. So first of all, I didn't want to throw in a bunch of them because I do feel the deck needs more of them. But I'll kind of talk a little bit on why I threw these ones in here. So the point of this deck is we really want to have Calamax out there and survive and do well. So I think the deck needs counter spells so that we're able to save our commander so we can keep it on the battlefield to get more value off of the instants we can cast every turn.
Mm-hmm.
So Fierce Guardianship, that new counter spell, I think should pop into this deck because we want to protect our commander, and when it's on the battlefield, we can cast that for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arcane Denial, I think, is really cool in this deck because if you just want to get some card draw, you get to copy it when you cast it, and then you can just counter your own Arcane Denial.
Yeah. I love that.
So it's a counter spell / draw some cards.
And if there's a couple of spells on the stack and you want to cast an Arcane Denial and copy it, the players that are getting their spells countered aren't even going to be upset because they get to draw 2 cards.
Exactly. That's what's so good about Arcane Denial.
Yeah.
Nobody gets upset.
I mean, assuming that the copies that you resolve actually resolve, right? You don't want to be countering things on the stack and have your other Arcane Denials fizzle. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Yep.
Yes.
And then the other one is Rewind. Because you get to untap up to 4 lands. And with this deck, you're wanting to play spells on everybody's turn. So if we can counter something and still play something again on someone else's turn, it's really good because you cast Rewind for 4 mana, and then you can untap up to 4 lands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I talked about card draw. Probably one of my favorite ones is Pull from Tomorrow. So instead of having the Commune with Lava, same mana cost, but we're drawing the cards. And then you have to discard one. And then for some fun, we do have Factor Fiction.
Love Factor Fiction.
And remember, all these cards, we're getting 2 copies of them usually because we're going to be casting them and getting that Calamax trigger.
I didn't forget about it.
You mentioned it. Crowsign Grip, I think, was a must.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
We're going to get rid of 2 things no matter what.
Just put it in all your green decks, folks.
Yes, sir. And then I added in 2 of these guys because they're pretty fun. So we got Increasing Vengeance and then Narset's Reversal. So both of these cards copy an instant or sorcery spell. Increasing Vengeance copies your own spell, so you have to use it on your turn. But it does have flashback for 5. And then when you flashback, you copy a spell twice. So this can really add a lot of stuff or value that you're going to be doing on your turn. Like if we want to cast Mystic Retrieval and then Increasing Vengeance for flashback, we're getting 3 cards back, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
But Narset's Removal we can use on other players' turns. And you copy target instant or sorcery spell, then you return it to their hand. And then you get to choose what copies go anywhere. So this one's really actually fun.
Oh yeah, Narset's Reversal is such a solid card, even if you don't get to copy it.
Yeah. Even just for like the single use.
Yeah.
And then I had to do it. The last card.
Temple of the False God.
Nexus of Fate just really fits well into this deck.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay.
People
We
hate
don't, we don't, Eric, you know that I
Yeah.
love extra turn spells. If if you're going to win the game, like just, but
this-
wow, it's actually quite inexpensive now. That's nice. Anyways.
Yeah, I might pick one up. And I think because like we're going to be getting 2 of these copies, right? So then we got to take 2 turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that's about all the additions. So I think what's really cool about the deck is like looking at the instance. Just remember that we're hoping to get 2 copies of it, not just like the one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's in green. And I was thinking of adding mana ramp, but then a lot of the other ones were sorcery. So
Right. Yeah.
there's a few of them in the deck already that are instant. And I was like, those actually work really well. Like there was a really bad one, and I was like, I'm gonna remove that. And then I was like, hold on, you do get 2 lands if you have the commander out, and it's actually kind of good.
Yeah. So, shall we move on to the last deck?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, we're going to move on to the last deck here that we're upgrading, and that is the Enhanced Evolution deck, which is my upgrade. So, let's begin with the cards that I'm planning on removing. Before we get to them, though, I feel like we mentioned this in our C20 set review, but an inherent problem with this deck is that there are only so many mutate cards to go around at the time of this recording. And even so, even if there are more cards in the future, mutate as a strategy is very risky. It's sort of a putting all your eggs in one basket type of strategy. And it's sort of a lot like an aura-based Voltron strategy where if an opponent is able to remove your commander that you've spent resources suiting up, you have to start all over again, which is why I'm more of a fan of an equipment-based Voltron strategy. And if you want to find out more about that, you can go and listen to episode 47 of our show where we talk all about that. Also, our lovely editor Ainsley was on that episode, so if you want to hear her voice, go check that out. But anyways, that's
Good
sort of
episode.
Yeah, it was fun. So that's sort of how I feel about mutate, but there are a lot of fun things that you can do with it. All that being said. So let's move on to the cards that I'm planning on taking out of the deck. First one is Capricopian. So what this card does to combat is really fun and unique, but it's just not what the deck is trying to do. And I certainly don't want to mutate creatures onto this card.
You're not digging the Goat Hydra?
No, I'm digging the Goat Hydra, but they should have made it legendary so I could have made a Goat Hydra tribal deck. What were they thinking?
That's fair.
There you go.
Next up, I'm going to take out Boneyard Mycodrax. I realize that this would be a good body to mutate onto, but I'm not crazy about how much the power toughness could fluctuate throughout the course of a game. And this deck, out of the box, doesn't have a reliable or consistent way to dump a high number of creatures into the graveyard. So,
All right.
next up, Bonder's Ornament. Not going to talk about it again. This is it. This is the last time.
You notice I didn't remove it.
I did notice that.
You didn't. Look at you. Is it? It costs 3 mana to cast, but 4 mana to activate the second ability, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I just
4 mana drop.
I just figured
Just so
I wasn't really interested in touching my ramp. I just wanted to cycle.
Yeah.
That's right. That's good. Live fast, cycle young. That's what they say.
Really?
I don't know. The next card is Yavimea Dryad. I admittedly didn't know this card existed, but why wouldn't you just put Wood Elves in the deck if you're going to take this kind of effect? Because Yavimea Dryad is double green for what Wood Elves does, and Wood Elves is one green and 2 generic mana. And Wood Elves gets you any forest, just like the Dryad, and unlike the Dryad, it puts it into play untapped. So the only thing I can say about this card being in this deck is that I didn't know about it. So if you have a deck where you want to search for forest, this is a good redundancy, forest in particular. But it just seemed like a strange include in a 3-color deck. Why are we using a double green ramp spell? I don't.
It's got that forest walk, so if you mutate onto it, it's a bigger creature now with forest walk.
You know what? You're right, Eric. Wood Elves does not have forest walk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Get it?
You know what? That's why
I still think Wood Elves would be stronger.
Yeah, I would still do Wood Elves.
Well, that's why I do this show with you guys, because you're better than me. You're always looking at the cards and seeing that they say forest walk and all that stuff.
Only ever Forest Walk, though.
Yeah, not Swamp Walk, none of that. No. The next card here is Masked Admirer. So this, I will say that this card could be a good mutate target because you could bounce it to your hand and all the creatures that you mutated onto it. So that would be a great way to save those creatures, but it's not always at the time of your choosing, which I don't really like. And the draw card effect is just too slow and too mana intensive. So it's out. There are just better draw spells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, Tidal Barracuda, a card I really like, but I don't like symmetrical effects like this. So, but the card at the top of my ad list does this, but just for me. So that's why it's out of here. But it is a very cool card, and it's also fun to say Barracuda. I feel like we don't get to say that word enough.
We don't.
Next up,
Also, like the art is really nice. There's just the color from like the purpley pinks up to the blue greens. It's nice.
It's very beautiful. Next up, I'm going to take out Zazara, which was the secondary commander in this deck. It's a really cool commander on its own, and you can do all kinds of crazy infinite mana shenanigans. But there are just faster options for ramp in this deck, and we're not going to be casting a critical mass of X spells, so it's out.
Bye.
Next up is Illusory Ambusher. This could be a good body to mutate onto for drawing cards, but I think there are just better ways to draw cards. Again, I guess I should have included that in Masked Admirer. But we're moving on. So Animus Awakening. I think we can do better with a more reliable ramp spell. I know that with Otrimi, we can get the discarded cards from our yard that have mutate, but I just don't like the variance of this card. And how often are we going to have spell mastery? Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this next card that I'm taking out of the deck, Mind Spring. I love a good X draw spell. I mean, at the very least, put Blue Sun Zenith into this slot.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with X draw spells is that they have a high ceiling and the floor is terrible. The floor of Mind Spring is pay 3, draw 1 card. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I'd much rather have like a Charter Course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd much rather have a Rhystic Study. Like, geez.
Yeah.
Or a Harmonize, please. Somebody help me.
Yeah, see, I like the X spells when they have the instant. That's why I really like Pull from Tomorrow, because it's instant.
Of course.
It's like, you're holding up your mana, and if you really don't need it, then you can just draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, no doubt. No, and that's why I suggested like swap it out for Blue Sun Zenith, but Pull from Tomorrow is even better because it's the same mana cost, and all you have to do is pitch a card.
Yeah, probably gonna pitch a land.
Easy.
Yeah, that's totally a sacrifice I would make for instant speed cards draw. Mm-hmm. I think I said card straw. Oh boy. Okay, next up is Dredge the Mire. We talked about this in our set review, and a lot of times with this card, you're just going to get 3 not so good creatures on the board from opponents' graveyards. So again, if don't like letting my opponents make those choices.
Yeah, even if they assuming they have a creature in their graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, hey, can we make a deal? Will you choose that creature? Come on.
Eric's running his instant matters deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I have Mirrored Landscape. I'm taking it out. I already explained why. And Temple of the False God. I don't think we need to get into this. We've done it. We've done it before. Go back and listen to our library of episodes and hear me complain about Temple of the False God. But you know what? What's great about this show is the difference of opinion that we've had about Temple of the False God. So I think if nothing else, you can all enjoy that. We're not just like Temple of the False God is bad across the board. We actually disagree about some things.
You should make a shirt.
Temple of the False God is not bad.
Temple of the False God is very situational.
Temple of the False God is a ramp spell.
Yeah.
The last 2 cards I'm taking out of the deck are Vastwood Hydra and Hero's Bane. These are great bodies to mutate onto, but with this deck, I also had a difficult time finding 15 cards to take out of the deck. So I'm just going to focus on other things for this particular upgrade.
Sorry, what was the second one?
Hero's Bane.
Oh,
It's another Hydra. So I'm going to move on to the cards that I'm adding. So I feel that it's paramount that we're able to cast our mutate creatures at instant speed, which is why the first card I'd slot into this deck is Leyline of Anticipation, which is, I'd say, a staple in any blue commander deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a super good card. I'd put it in any blue deck.
Let's move on to the ramp situation here. So unfortunately for our listeners, I did the same boring thing here. A full suite of talismans and signets. I just feel like 3 mana rocks are too slow. They have to do something impactful for me to want to play them, other than just tap for any color mana, like Bonder's Ornament. Love that card. So I have Talisman of Curiosity, Talisman of Dominance, Talisman of Resilience, Simic Signet, Dimir Signet, Golgari Signet, and I also again put the 3 2-mana green ramp spells that I mentioned with the Abzan deck. So Farseek, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth. So let's get to the good cards. The first card here is Koskun Falls, which is a turn 1 Sol Ring favorite for sure.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right.
So just in case you forgot what Koskun Falls is, it's from Homelands. It's 2 and 2 black for an enchant world. During your upkeep, tap target untapped creature you control or bury Koskun Falls. No creature can attack you unless its controller pays 2 whenever that creature attacks. So it's just like Propaganda or Ghostly Prison. And you know, I know what you're thinking. This is a mutate deck. I only have 1 creature, but if it comes up, Koskun Falls, I'll have the extra creature. So just don't worry about it. It's fine. And what's nice is they already put Propaganda in this deck, which is, you know, a really nice redundancy for this arena.
Yeah.
The next card is a very similar card. It's Collective Restraint. It's 3 and a blue for an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays X for each creature attacking you, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. This is a really sweet propaganda type effect that is really underplayed and has super creepy art.
Super creepy art on that one.
So yeah, I just feel that because we are doing a 1 creature type of thing for the most part with the mutate ability, I just feel like we're not going to have a lot of opportunity to block multiple creatures. So this cards like Koskun Falls and Collective Restraint and Propaganda, which is already in the deck, just deal with that eventuality. So the last 3 cards I decided to put in the deck are mutate cards to just, you know, keep it tight. And the first card is Dirge Bat. So we talked about this. Did we? I don't know if we talked about this in our set review, but anyways, it's 2 and 2 black for a 3/3 bat. It has mutate for 4 and 2 black. It has flash and flying. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So repeatable removal on a stick at instant speed. Can't go wrong.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Spicy.
Next up, we have Gem Razor. Very similar story here. It's 3 and a green for a 4/4 beast. Its mutate cost is 1 and 2 green. It has reach and trample. And whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment and opponent controls. So this deck doesn't have white in it. We can't run Aura Shards. So this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
And lastly, the mighty Parcel Beast.
Nice.
2, a green and a blue for a 2/4 elemental beast. It has mutate for a green and a blue. And it has an activated ability. You can pay 1, tap it, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. This card doesn't have a mutate trigger, obviously, but its activated ability is both ramp and card draw. So, if nothing else, it is a solid body to mutate onto or to have it mutate onto something else, because 2 mana for a 2/4 is pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like when you mutate onto something, you're going to be able to tap it right away because it's not coming in with summoning sickness. So
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So that is those are our upgrades. I think we all did a pretty good job.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, good for us.
These decks are... Yay! Pat on the back.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode. Please do let us know if you're planning on putting any of the cards we suggested into these decks or any decks. And if we've missed any cards, I'm sure we have, because this is all subjective. But once we get a chance to start playing with these decks in our league, we'll keep you all informed of how it goes and what cards we actually end up adding to our decks. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I wonder what deck I'll get.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I wonder if I'll... the nice thing this year, I've said this many times, but even the person that does the worst still gets to choose. That's nice.
Yeah.
And they're not going to choose humans.
No, they're probably
sure
not
about
gonna, they're not gonna. The thing is, there's so many good, even the partner commanders and the lieutenant commanders are all so good. They all seem so fun, even if you don't like the face commander. With all 5 of the decks, I don't think I would keep the face commander past the first round, honestly.
Oh, really?
Or maybe, well, I might play it for a few rounds and slowly beef up what I want to change, and then take the advantage of getting all those extra slots, and then change commanders. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's actually it's a good way to use that as something that we would use to benefit a potential disadvantage, and it actually turns into an advantage. So I hadn't actually thought of that until just now. But we're going to talk about that in the future. Anyways, this isn't for our listeners. This is about us. So let's get back to the show. We'd also like to thank our lovely editor, Ainsley, for her behind-the-scenes work that she does each and every week. And if you want to find any of us individually on social media, you can find me at Command Beacon on Instagram. Riley, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Riley_Dayton or on Twitter at RilesDayton.
Awesome. And before you hop to the next episode, please do check out all the links in the show notes. We appreciate each and every one of you, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.
Time for the Jeopardy theme song. Do 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 do
I love how you fully committed.